All right, so we're about to kick it off and turn it over to our guest. Today we are going to have career branding for Scrum Masters with our special guest, Michael Stinnett. So I've known Michael for a long time. Open disclosure, Michael helped me update my resume a few years ago and did a fine job. And as you all know, if you're a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, updating your resume is sometimes a minefield because of all of the nuanced words and vocabulary that we use. So Michael brands himself as the Unstuck Coach. He's a prominent career development coach and resume writer. He's based in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he's helped a lot of job seekers, including myself, transform their careers through compelling resumes, interview techniques, LinkedIn strategies, and the like. So with that, I am going to stop the share. I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Well, hi, everyone. Yep, Michael Stinnett here. I'm with Flight 40 Career Branding, and so thrilled first to be here. I love the work that you all do. There's nothing as exciting in my life as working with people and trying to accomplish goals, tasks, get to certain outcomes. We all know that many times it's not the outcomes aren't the issue, it's the systems. The systems that we have aren't designed to get the outcomes that we want, so we have to get different systems. And today we're going to talk about for those of you who are in the job search world, we're going to talk about our job search strategy, our interview strategy, our career branding approach as a system. Because if you have the right system, you tend to get the right results. And so we want to work on the system that gets us the results that we want. So that's where we'll go from there. I'm going to share screen. If during my presentation or discussion you have questions, please drop those in the chat. Any question is on limits, and we'll try to answer them as much as possible. Full disclosure, I don't know all the answers. And your answer might be, I don't know, but that's a great question. And that will just have to be the best that I can do because I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not going to lie to you about it. I'm not going to make up an answer. So with that said, if at any point you have a question, drop it in the chat when you have it. Otherwise, you'll forget it if you're like me. And let's go from there and let's just kind of see if we can help with resumes, career branding, and any questions that you have about that space. Screen 2. Okay. All right, so let's talk about resume workshop for Scrum Masters, how to develop an effective resume because we want it to work for us. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over the key components of your resume. We're going to talk about how to write impactful bullet points that help you get noticed, tailoring the resume for Scrum roles or Agile roles. Basically, what is the company looking for in the job description? Heads up, the job description is a glimpse into what they want, and ultimately we have to show them what they want to see sometimes. Then we're going to move into the do's and don'ts. We're going to talk about common challenges, solutions. We're going to do some resume review, and then we're going to talk about, it's not on the agenda, but I added it and didn't add it here, job searching and interviewing and how you network, how you storytell, and things like that. Because you can have the best resume, but if that resume doesn't get in front of the right people, it doesn't do its job. It won't work for you. So you have to get in front of the right people. So we're going to talk about that. So let's dive in and look at the specific components of an effective resume. We're just going to take them one step at a time. And we're going to start with contact info. I'm really surprised at how many people don't have one of these components on their resume. I've seen people forget to put their name. That's a problem. Like, that's a challenge. They'll have a picture of themselves, which is also a no-no, but they won't have their name there. And that's a challenge. I've seen people without their phone number, and that's a problem. I've seen people without emails, and then I've seen people without their LinkedIn profile. So let's talk about these things real quickly. First, do not put them in the header because headers often don't get parsed correctly. And so you want to put them in the body of your document. Avoid using headers if at all possible, and make sure your name is big enough. And if your name has a a pronunciation that might not be familiar to the person, maybe put in parentheses how to pronounce your name correctly or something. Just go ahead and give them that freedom so that when they call you, because they are going to call you, right? That's what we believe. When they say your name, they're more likely to say it correctly, which is just a nice first touch. Also, on your phone number, please do not have a voicemail box that is full or not set up. If they try to call you during work hours and you can't take the call, but they can't leave a message for you, you've just missed a great opportunity. And you don't know it because your mailbox was full or it wasn't set up, so they didn't leave a message. And they might not call you back. They might just move on to the next person that they see in the beautiful ATS. Next thing on emails, try to use an email that is more preferred in the business world today. There are certain emails that some people are just like, they're biased against them for whatever reason. They think they're outdated for whatever reason. So if your email is like AOL.com or Hotmail or Rocket Mail or something like that, you might want to go with a Gmail or an Outlook. Gmail is a free one, right? So use that if at all possible. It's pretty simple. And then maybe don't use an email that isn't super professional. Like you probably don't want to be like Sexy Scrum Master 107 or something. Not the best email title. So name, email, phone number. And then on LinkedIn, when I first started writing resumes for people, I would just put LinkedIn profile and I would hyperlink it. And that worked for a while. Recently, the ATS have changed and that no longer works because if you put that link, the ATS will parse and just put LinkedIn profile. It won't put the actual URL. So you have to put the URL for your LinkedIn profile if you want your LinkedIn profile to actually come up in the ATS. So I hope that makes sense. If you want it to fit correctly, you can just do the www dot and don't have to do the HTTP and go ahead and shorten your LinkedIn profile to something that is more manageable. Moving on then, that's contact info. Professional summary. This is such an important part. First, don't put professional summary, put the job title in between contact info and your professional summary. If you're going for Agile Coach, Scrum Master, product, whatever it is you're doing, job title there so it's real clear. And in your professional summary, you want to be efficient with the space and effective with the words. It should be clear, it should be compelling. How do you do that? Well, there are 3 things that your professional summary should do for you. Okay. Number 1 is it should first highlight the years of experience that you have. If the job requirement is 5+ years of experience and you have that, then make that the first sentence. You've nailed the experience thing. Now, what if you're not as, what if you're not a Scrum Master currently? Well, if you have managed, well, in this sense, maybe managed projects or collaborated with teams on different agile methodologies or agile tasks, you could put 5 years doing that thing that is going to be relevant to the role. Another piece of information, the professional summary can come from the job description. If you look closely, when the job description says this role is responsible for, in this role you will, and they give you 3 or 4 sentences about the role and the person they're looking for, see if that's a fit for you, and then rephrase your professional summary to align with what they're looking for. So first sentence is an experience sentence. The second sentence is the skills sentence. Is it cross-team collaboration? Is it technical integration into team management? Whatever your skill set is that is relevant, you bump that in that second sentence of your professional summary. And then in the third sentence, maybe add an outcomes sentence or add a sentence about your certifications or something like that. Just skills, experience, skills, outcomes. That's your professional summary. Keep it short, keep it simple. Not lots of bullet points, not lots of stuff. And then in the next piece of a resume, key pieces here, certifications and tech skills. Let's avoid doing like a bunch of core competencies like collaboration and teamwork and management and Scrum Master. I've seen all kinds of resumes with all kinds of words filled in. I don't want you to use like the hard skill or soft skill, let's prove those in the bullet points. This particular space is for certifications that you do have that are relevant, and for technical skills like technology skills, programs that you have used and can use in your Scrum Master work. And the reason I like those here is I want them to see quickly. Professional summary, yes, you're relevant. Let's make some movement there. Tech skills, yes, you have the required tech skills. Let's keep moving on the resume, because the longer you can keep the reader engaged in your resume, the more likely you are to get the phone call. All right. Moving through, and I may be talking too quickly. It is recorded, so you can slow me down when you do the replay. All right. But I want to be able to get to all of your questions. And so we'll also, Joe, Katie, I'm happy to share this slideshow so that you can send it out or do whatever you need to do for it. Okay. Next. Okay. This is the golden piece of your resume. This is the most important thing. If you didn't listen to anything else I said, outside of your name, needs to be there. You want to have a relevant achievements section. You want to show them on page 1, here are the standout achievements in my experience that are specifically relevant to this type of work. And you want to give them some headings of here's one of the maybe a sprint narrative, maybe an epic, whatever it is that you want to lead there. Put that there and then give them a couple of bullet points about it. And I'm going to show you how that works. Next is professional experience and then education. And if you still have some space, let's say you've got like a page and a half. All right, now put in core competencies at the end and throw in all the hard skills, some of the key words that you maybe didn't get to use earlier, just for the sake of adding a little cushion for the ATS. All right, let's move on to the next spot. Writing impactful bullet points. Well, first, use action words that are strong. Words like supported or participated, probably not. What did you lead? What did you facilitate? What did you coach? If you did like daily stand-ups, if you're leading daily stand-ups, then how do you say that? Because I've seen people who put like participate in daily stand-ups. Well, because you weren't the leader. Well, could we just be like collaborated with team members in daily stand-ups so that you have that language there? But try to use the best words to describe what the job is looking for. Focus on outcomes. Mention results that you have been responsible for achieving, and quantify impact when possible. Some people freak out about this. You can't always find a quantitative achievement like outcome, but you can find a qualitative one probably. So look for both. Qualitative when possible, quantitative when possible. And if you can't come up with either, that's okay. If the bullet point is still relevant, put it. And then maybe think through, bounce the ideas off other people and see what they think. And maybe there's a metric there that you just weren't thinking about. And so let's talk about some example bullet points. Okay. I've seen people with bullet points like led daily stand-ups and retrospectives. Okay, give us an emoji if you have ever led a daily stand-up or a retrospective. You ever looked at the product, the backlog and said, here are the things that we need to prioritize. Give us an emoji or something like that. Let us know. Give us a thumbs up, a sad face, whatever you want. Just, something there so we can see that you're here with us. All right, thanks. So I see some people there. So here's an idea is this bullet point that's here, and I went to the next thing. It's a little long, right? But it's pretty impactful. It tells us exactly what you did. But here's what happens, okay? It's too easy for us to assume that the reader of the resume can make the inferences that you want them to make. Well, they're not going to. Let's make it simple for them. You don't have to make any inferences from this after bullet point. It tells you exactly what the person did. And it tells you how they did it. I want bullet points that have an action that you took, a process that you used, and an outcome that you achieved. If you can give me those 3 things, you've got a really, really strong, impactful bullet point. So let's look at another one. Coach teams on agile practices. Anybody do that? Yeah, I got some hands raised there. Nice. Some head nods. I see it. Some of you, your camera's off. I could see your name shaking. Not really, but it would have been really a cool feature. How can we reframe that? Because what if the recruiter isn't super hip on what agile practices even are? They just know that agile is a word they're supposed to look for. So it's like, don't assume they know what you did. And this is very important if you're not currently a Scrum Master. Okay. It is so necessary for you to help the reader see how your skills and experience are transferable. They're not going to do the work of transferring it for you. So you have to transfer it for them. Make it very simple for them to see how, if you were a third grade teacher, how did you wrangle those 26 8-year-olds and turn that into Scrum Master skills? They don't make the connection. Okay. If you were in some other space, don't assume they'll make the connection because they probably won't. They'll just go to somebody else that they didn't have to do that much work for. All right. So now let's have some activity together. Is everybody ready? Kind of loosen up, stretch if you need to, do some box breathing if you're really, really stressed out right now, if I'm creating too much anxiety for you. So here it is. Let's work on this bullet point together in the chat. Or if you've got a great one here and I don't know what y'all's process is. Are people unmuting and can talk? Because I'm open for whatever. Managed the product backlog. Let's turn that bullet point into an action that you took, a process that you used, and an outcome that you achieved. So let's take 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and I'm just going to be quiet. And you throw into the chat what you think a bullet point could look like on manage the product backlog. Okay? Right. I see a few coming in and I'm loving it. Keep it coming, though. Keep those wheels turning. I love what we're doing here. All right, look through those options that people put into the chat, and you'll see like, okay, we started with an action that we took, partnered with product owners. Okay, fantastic. To refine backlog items, great. Prioritize work and align team efforts, yes. With business objectives, all right. Boom. That's a lot of stuff that we did, right? So you may even be able to like pull some of those out and focus on those in another bullet point or something like that. Just whatever the job description is looking for, but it's really good. And then look at the next, managed and prioritized product backlogs in Azure DevOps. That's a process that you used. It's really, really helpful to include the process part because it's showing how you use the skills that you said you had on your resume. So if I said that I can use Confluence, right? Let me show them when I did it. Or if I used, MS Project, MS Teams, whatever it is, let me show them how I did that thing in the bullet points. So it's action, process, outcome. Not every bullet has to have those parts, but do yourself a favor and make some of them like that because you want to make it simple for the reader. It's all about the reader. The resume is all about the reader. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Is everyone ready? If you're still thinking on number one, that's fine. I'm not rushing you. You can get caught up later. All right. Resolved impediments for the team. Let me just ask first, how many of you have ever been in the middle of a sprint working through backlogs and you came up, there were impediments? Has anyone ever been faced with impediments? That's not something that we do in Scrum, right? It's not something that Agile folks ever face. No. So how did you resolve those? What action did you take? Somebody give us a really good bullet point there that would be impactful on a resume. I'm going to go grab a bottle of water. I'll be right back. Love it, Joe.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to go just to you. That was supposed to go to everybody. Let me fix that. Oh, and by the way, if you've got questions, please post them for everybody to see. That helps us track them and make sure they get answered.
I hope that everyone is seeing value in thinking through your resume and your bullet points on your resume in this capacity. One, it shows that you took the necessary action by using those strong verbs. Get the strong verbs from the job description if you don't know which ones to use. Use the ones they're looking for. It's a little bit of a cheat, but it is what it is. And then the process is, if you can use the action process outcome format, you're not going to have to adjust your resume as often because it's going to be really, really relevant to your strengths and experiences, which is going to better align to more jobs. Okay, now we're going to move on. Once I click, got it. All right, so I've said some of these things, right? So match keywords from job descriptions. Use the terms they give you. And if you're not real sure, like, look at 3 or 4 job descriptions and see where the words overlap. Download them into ChatGPT and tell it to create a list for you. Put it into Word Cloud and let it create a Wordle for you or something, right? And see what are the skills, what are the verbs that are used most often, and try to use those more regularly. When customizing your professional summary, as I mentioned earlier, that paragraph that shows up in most job descriptions right before the bullet points, that paragraph is filled with, in this role, we are looking for a person who can. So let your professional summary show them that you are the person who can, because they'll tell you that they're looking for someone who can facilitate agile coaching or implement, safe work, who can, whatever methodology framework they're looking for. Let them know that you can do that. Or read that paragraph and be like, that's not for me. I'm going to move on to the next job description. That way you're not constantly applying to jobs that aren't actually a good fit and not making any progress. And then customize the core skills. You want to focus on the job descriptions, but I want to say this, and please hear this. Your resume has to be a reflection of who you really are and the work you've really done. So don't fabricate things, because in the interview, that's not going to help you. If you can't use a product, don't put on the resume that you can. If you did a LinkedIn learning course on it, that's not necessarily means that you have proficiency with it. Okay, so don't stretch too much, because in the interview, that can come back to get you. And remember, you have the skills you have, and they were not born in the classroom. If you're a teacher, they were not born in a Scrum daily stand-up. They are revealed there. Your skills are revealed in your workplace. They are not born in your workplace. We are all upskilling. We're all in development, but let your resume reflect you, but make sure that it also resonates with the reader. Okay. Do's and don'ts. Do, be concise. Most of us don't have enough material to keep somebody engaged more than 2 pages. Most of us. There are some of you out there who are rock stars crushing the world and people want to read everything you've ever done because it's amazing. Okay. But also, some of us have stuff on our resume that is like not super like relevant. Like they might not care about that thing or that award that you won or something like that. So I know it's like, oh, but I worked so hard to get that award. Yes, you did, but now that could be the thing that keeps you from moving forward. So it's like, just stick to the relevance. Focus on Agile Scrum specific experience. Quantify your impact when you can because numbers are easy for people to make sense of. And then keep the resume clean, easy to read. What that means is use white space where you can, add a couple of points of space in between headings and stuff like that so that it's more readable, it's more scannable. When you have loads of words on a white page, it is really difficult to scan and find the important things for a reader if it's all jumbled together. So space it out, add and think through, does this look clean? Is it organized well? Then don'ts. Don't overuse the jargon because nobody wants to read a resume that is just littered with keywords and buzzwords and all that stuff all over it. That doesn't tell anybody anything, except that you may have used ChatGPT to write your resume as a Scrum Master. And I have seen that. I've actually seen people who use white color font and put white color font first with a job description pasted on it, and then put their resume in black font over that. And I'm like, that the ATS can still read white font, right? Like it's picking out the text. So that just really blew you up. And but it's fun to find the things that people do to try and get ahead. Don't overuse the jargon. Don't include irrelevant experience, and don't exaggerate or lie about your skills. You've done really good work. Be proud of the work that you've done, but figure out how to say it in a way that makes you competitive. All right. Now, what is an ATS? There are a lot of things out there that people think about an ATS. Some of them are true, some of them are false. I'm not a person who thinks that the ATS is just throwing your resume out and keeping you from ever getting through. I do think that sometimes it makes it hard because the ATS does, some ATS, depend on the one the company is using, will categorize resumes by percent fit for the role. And so if you're a 99% fit, you're going to be higher up on the totem pole than somebody who's a 63% fit. And if they don't get to your resume, it's not that you were rejected necessarily, it's just that they didn't make it to you. Or maybe they had a cutoff of people that were 70% fit, whatever it is. So the ATS is an applicant tracking system. It essentially works as a database in project management style of here are all of the applicants. Here are the ones that I've contacted. Here are the ones that I'm not contacting. Here are the ones that have interviews. And it allows you to move a candidate through the process. That's what the majority of recruiters that are in my network do with their ATS. It scans resumes for keywords for relevant skills, and it parses information based on the words. So you want to make sure, one, if you have double columns and you have information in headers and footers, it's likely to miss some of that. And if you have images or charts or graphs, those may be super cool if you can hand your resume to a human, but those could be hurting you if it's an online application because it doesn't know how to parse that. So use standard job titles. Don't make some fancy job title that no one's ever heard of. Like, for example, don't put Scrum Master of the Universe as your job title. It's a super cool name for a group, but maybe not such a good one for your resume. Include the keywords because that's what the ATS is built to look for. And then, use pretty general fonts. Try to stick to like Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman if you're into the, sans, or if you're into the serifs, cool. All right, common challenges, solutions. This is fun. What if I don't have direct Scrum Master experience? Just for I guess funsies. Is anyone on the call today who does not have direct Scrum Master experience? And I don't see everybody. I'm not in that view. So if you are here, we're glad you're here. It's a great group to be a part of. Focus on transferable skills and certifications. Maybe you don't have them yet, but you can get them. You can get certifications. You can upskill. You can position yourself in that way. If you're struggling to quantify results, first, then maybe it's not a number that you can find, but you can find something. And so use the qualitative and quantitative results thoughts. And then ask somebody on your team. I had somebody I'm working with on a resume right now. She emailed me this morning and she said she couldn't think of any more things. So she messaged former teammates and colleagues and asked them for stuff. And then she sent me like 5 more bullet points of stuff that she had done. And I was like, this is great. It had new technology tools in it. It had new programs that she had been part of, but she just couldn't think about it. And so I was like, great, way to network. So figure out how to find the qualitative and quantitative results, use other people. And then if you're transitioning from other roles, again, this goes back to the first one, is highlight the Scrum related, Agile related experience and leadership skills. Most of us have been in jobs where you had to make adjustments, where your plans didn't work out as you thought they would. Most of us have had jobs that had to prioritize tasks. You had to identify risks, and you had to communicate with people to get things done on time. Those seem relevant to me. And so figure out how to talk about those things. Too many people give up because they say, well, I don't have the experience because I don't have the job title. That's just not true. You just don't have the job title, but you have the experience. So you have to be able to transfer that. But sometimes it's just not enough for people because there are people who are stuck on job titles. And so we're going to talk about that in just a second. So this is going to be for you for later, is go through, look at your resume. Do you need to make any revisions to your resume? If you want, feel free to message me if you need a template or something like that. Happy to do that. And then, work with someone to see, is this readable? Does this make sense? But I want to move into other job search strategies. So first, networking. Let's talk about networking. First, get your LinkedIn profile in the direction that you want it to go. Right? Get your resume speaking the right language, get your LinkedIn profile speaking the right language, highlight the Scrum skills, maybe add a project section of different Scrum projects that you've done, Agile projects that you've done, and then engage with people. If there are people posting about Scrum work, engage with their posts and add value to that so that you become connected to people in the space. When you're comment on companies that have jobs that you might be open to working for, and put yourself in that space. A lot of times I'll see companies make a post on their page and have like 2 comments. And I'm like, well, then be the third person. Like, put yourself out there and let them put you top of mind. Let's see. Informational interviews. Reach out to people in this space. Reach out to people who are on this call, who are part of the Scrum Masters of the universe. Reach out to one another and pick each other's brains when you have time, and message. Be specific. But please hear this: value relationships over transactions. Like, don't just reach out to people and start asking for favors right away. Like, add value to each other and support each other, encourage each other, value relationships over transactions. And then join communities, the meetups that were talked about, the events that were posted in this chat. Scroll back up into the chat and be sure that you click on some of those links, because those meetups could connect you to people that have the opportunity for you. Your next opportunity may be connected to a person you haven't even met yet. So make sure that you connect to as many people as possible. In fact, some of you on this call probably got the opportunity that you have now through a connection. You networked and you were able to get your resume in somebody's hands and get their eyes on it. Otherwise, you may not have ever had the opportunity. And so lean in to the opportunities that are created in your circle of people. Now, I work with a lot of clients who don't think they have any connections. And then we start to pull back. Okay, but what vendors have you worked with? And they're like, well, I worked with these 3 companies. And I'm like, okay, did you have connections with the account reps? Well, yeah. I was like, have you ever talked to them about jobs at their company? And they're like, no. Like, well, those are connections that you could possibly connect to. What about other stakeholders, sponsors that you've worked with? What about former colleagues that have moved on into new spaces? I didn't think about reaching out to them. I didn't want to be a bother. Well, let them determine if you're a bother, right? Don't just assume you're going to be bothering people. Take opportunity to network with people. So those are some things first. Then with the career branding space, because that's what my business partner and I do with Flight 40 is we work on career branding. When we think of career branding, here's what we think of. We think of, what do you want to be known for? Number one. When people think of you, what do you want them to think? And then number two is, who do you want to think that? So you have to know you, and then you have to know your audience. So for those on this call, if you're in Scrum Master life or trying to be an agile coach or a director or something, you need to figure out, what skills, what experiences do I want to be known for? And then who do I want to know that? That's your audience. So you develop the what do I want to be known for, and then you develop the who I want to know it, and you get your career brand aligned in that direction. So think about positioning yourself as a Scrum expert. Think about positioning yourself by talking about some of the things that you're doing with your team in your company, and post on those things. Share your insights, tailor your resume. Do you have a portfolio of projects? Do you have a portfolio of just whatever it is that you've been working on for the last few years? You've got a lot of different things that you've done, whether they're new tech implementations or new developments or something like that. Build a portfolio out of those things for your career branding purposes. And I want to go to the interview piece, because I think a lot of us get caught up and we don't really know how to interview well. So one, maybe you could structure your responses with stories. So think about how to tell a story of something that you've done, as opposed to, I did this. Talk about a time when you did this. My team and I were X, and here was the challenge that we faced. And maybe use the STAR method. And I have an example of a STAR method that we'll show in just a second. And then focus on specific examples of your impact so that they can visualize your impact in their company. When you tell the story of how you did something, it makes it easier for somebody to see how you could do it for them. And that's what you want in the interview, is you want them to see how you're a fit for them. And then you show them, don't just tell them. I do this all the time with people in interview preparation, is I want you to give me the skills that you have, and then give me the, here's how I've used them. Here's what I can do, and here's how I have done it. So give me the what you can do, and then give me the how you have done it to prove it, because that's what people remember. They might not remember that it was Michael Stinnett, but they might remember that it was, who was the guy that we interviewed? He had done like 40 different workshops on training development for manufacturing company. Who was that guy? Remember he did that one? And then they'll start to think about it, and that's me. So I want to have stories that make them remember me. So think about the stories that will make people remember you in the interviews. And those stories are all over your experience. They're all over your resume. Those stories come from those relevant achievements that I talked about. When you put those relevant achievements up, refine those into stories to be able to talk about. Put them in a portfolio so that it's easy for you, and practice that pitch. Here's the STAR method, but it's going to be in here. I don't really want to go through this. I don't want to read all of this. It's a lot of stuff. But work through this when you get the slideshow. When you watch the recording, pause it, go through the STAR method, and then fill in with one of your examples. Q&A. Hi, everyone. That was my presentation. Thanks for listening.
Outstanding. Thank you, Michael. All right, so we have several questions in the chat. First one is, can Michael provide a sample resume that follows this recommended resume format?
You bet. You bet. This will actually, I'm just going to drop a link in the chat to a Google Doc that you will have to make a copy for because I am not giving everyone edit access because then my template's messed up. But feel free to make a copy there. There's actually a video guide, and then there's a step-by-step document guide on how to fill this out.
All right, looking in the chat, the next one we have, when you don't have those metrics that you mentioned in your slide, what can we put in our resume?
Yeah, great question. What are first, before answer, what do you all think you could do? Let's collaborate. There's a bunch of us on this call.
I think highlight the transferable skills, how you can leverage your transferable skills, right, to what they might be looking for. Sorry, it's Nitik here.
Yeah, that's certainly great. And maybe you didn't, you know, maybe the thing didn't work actually. And so it's like, oh no, we got to the end of this sprint and we had to redo everything. That's okay because you adapted, you learned, you figured something out. So if you can still show the action that you took and the process that you used, that's still really, really high value. You don't always have to say increased by 30%, improved X, or strengthened this, or results were this. Like you don't have to have it every time. So just think about have it when you can.
Or you can talk about business outcomes. What business outcome did you enable the team to achieve?
Yeah. Yeah. An example of that, Joe?
Work with team to implement upgraded accounting and general ledger system 3 months ahead of schedule and $2 million under budget.
Yeah, there you go. If you can say things like that. And I'm sorry, I shared the resume template with an individual instead of with everyone, but I have rectified that situation.
All right, personal question for me. What's your take on tools like Skill Syncer that claim to, you upload your resume, you upload the ad, it claims to analyze them and suggest keywords for you?
I mean, I'm not opposed to them. There are a lot of them that are free. So just and then, Chat GPT, Claude, they'll all do that for you too. Like if you throw your resume and the job description into chat and say, run a strengths gaps analysis of this and give me suggestions for revision, it'll do it. And it'll do a pretty good job, especially if you have a paid version. But Jobalytics is one, it's a Chrome add-on, a Chrome extension. Goodness, words are hard. So Jobalytics is one that if I'm looking at a job description on LinkedIn, it will actually have over on the side how much of a fit I am for that based on the resume that I have uploaded to LinkedIn. And so that's a pretty good feature. I'm a fan of some of those. Like use them, but just don't if it says you're 70% match, like don't give up. Like
are there any AI tools that you recommend job seekers not use? Or are there any AI applications that you recommend job seekers not use?
Probably, but I don't know all of them. So it's like only use the ones you know how to use, and then only when you use any AI, just make sure that it's only drawing from the information that you give it. So be very specific with your prompts in AI stuff. Like if you're throwing something into Claude, for instance, and you attach your resume and you put the job description in, you want to make sure that it's stay accurate to my experience and my skills, but translated to this job. I've seen people come in with saying all kinds of things that align with the job description. And then I'll be like, Katie, so tell me about the time where you did this thing. And they're like, oh, I've never done that. I was like, well, why did your resume say it? Well, that's what the job description said. And I'm like, no, don't do that. So what I would say when you're using AI is don't let AI give you the finished project. AI gives you a draft that you have to edit for accuracy and to speak your language. Like it has to be you.
DJ has asked a very interesting question. He wants to know, do you cover failures in your stories, or is it all about just successes?
Absolutely not. Uh, be honest. So it depends on the resume. Failures are tricky. Probably don't want to talk about them a lot. If you highlight failures and not successes, then that's not generally the picture you want to paint. But when you're in an interview, if you can give a failure story, but what did you learn from it? That's actually super valuable, because now they see that you're a person who doesn't quit at failure. Because if we're not being honest, who hasn't failed at something? Who hasn't had something not go the way that you expected it to go? But there are a lot of people who give up. I used to tell some of my clients that, hold on, failing doesn't make you a failure. Giving up while failing makes you a failure. And so it's like all humans fail, but we learn from it. So I would say just leverage the failure and what you learned from it as a strength.
Hey, and Rupesh has a great question to follow up on that. How important is the cover letter when applying for a job?
Well, the honest answer is it's as important as the person who wants it. Because some people just want it to see if you're going to do it. I've actually talked to recruiters and they've said that we're just seeing who will actually do the things. And if they did all the things, then they're more likely to get an interview. I hate that response, but I get it. I think cover letters, if it says required, do it, but please try to be more creative than, dear hiring manager, I'm excited to apply for this role. Here's my cover letter. Please accept my resume. First, you don't have to tell them you're excited to apply. They know that because you applied. So what I would do in the cover letter is my first paragraph is, based on the company's mission or the experience, the job descriptions, roles, how are you a fit? Jump right into that. Don't waste anyone's time, and then give them maybe 3 quick examples of how you solve the problems the role is facing. Because you want your cover letter to work for you in addition to the resume. It does not need to be a repeat of the resume. That won't help. So let that cover letter, if that's the first thing they read, then when I write a cover letter for a client, that cover letter has to be compelling enough for them to say, I want to know more.
Awesome. So Carlos has a question about storytelling in an interview and thinks it's excellent, wants to know if you have any examples to inspire us of storytelling in an interview.
Probably not right now. No. Well, it would depend on so this is tricky. Great question, by the way, but it would depend on the question that I'm answering. So if anybody want to ask me a specific question about a skill or something, I'm happy to throw that out there.
So I will use some questions that I use in my Scrum Master interviews. I like for Scrum Masters, hey, tell me about a time you worked with a really difficult team or a really difficult team member in a retrospective to get to the root cause of a problem or to come up with an improvement activity. Tell me about a time you did that.
Yeah, fantastic. First, so it's a great question. So dealing with retrospectives, trying to get to the root cause. I think first, it's easy for our teams to identify symptoms and never get to the root cause, and we try to solve symptoms. So I was working with, actually this morning, I was working with someone and we were trying to identify root cause. I would keep asking, so what are you doing here? What's going on there? And they would give me very vague answers. And so we would have to rerun some analysis of the data, right? Like what's going on and where is the obstacle actually being created? And we were able to identify some problems in the daily schedule. This person was getting distracted by things that were not connected to the task at hand. And that's how we identified what the bottlenecks were. When we were able to pinpoint, hey, this is the day where you stopped doing the thing you needed to do, we were able then to correct that and say that one decision was slowing everything else down for the whole team. And so once we were able to fix that, we were able to gain some momentum back. And So that's tough though, because every time it's a different root cause.
Here is one. Should you put the certification image on your resume?
Probably not. I would add that as an extra document or file. I don't put any images on resumes because I don't want them to misread in an ATS.
All right. I think with that, we have drained the questions from the chat. Anyone else have a question that they have not asked yet?
I have a question. Sorry, I'm not gonna put the camera because I'm driving, so I'm asking through my car. The question would be, when you put the title on the resume of the job, a lot of job descriptions, they want project management with the Scrum Master skills. So is it like, can you put Scrum Master / project management, or it's gonna mess you up?
No, that's a good question, Anna. And I think there's a way to do that. Actually, I've started doing this with some of my clients, actually, is I'll put like if it's related, project management Scrum Master or project manager Scrum Master, and I'll just put a space, vertical bar space in between that so that it's not connected. Because if you have like Word, let's say project manager, and you don't put a space in between that or a comma or something, then it's not going to read correctly. So you want to make sure that you just type out the words correctly. But I think putting those in the job title bar underneath your contact info and before your professional summary is satisfactory. I don't see a problem with that. And the ones that I've been doing, and clients are getting interviews, so I haven't stopped doing it because it's working.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Michael, this has been a fantastic episode. I think that I speak for everybody. I got a lot out of it. I hope everyone else did. We want to thank you for taking time out of your day to speak to us here today. We are recording this. We're going to put it up on our YouTube channel. It takes sometimes about a week for us to do that, but look for that coming soon. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Hope you got as much out of it as we did, and we'll see you next time at Scrum Masters of the Universe.
Sorry, I have a last follow-up question.
Oh,
Sorry, on the previous question, if we have time. Sorry.
Real quick.
Yeah. So it's related to the previous one, Michael, where about the job title, right? So let's say a job is for Scrum Master, let's say project manager, right? But you are currently working as a Scrum Master, right? But you have the transferable skills and the experience because you have performed some of those responsibilities. So on our resume, in the professional summary, the heading, we should put as project manager or Scrum Master.
So great question. In that space, I suggest that people put the job title that you want.
Okay.
And then in your professional summary, let's say you have 10 years experience, then I would put 10 years experience managing projects in agile environments or managing projects in a Scrum environment, so that you have managing projects right there so they can see it.
Okay.
But it isn't saying you were a project manager, so it's not a fabrication. It's both of those pieces.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
everyone.
Have a great day, a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.